By the late 1990s, the motorcycle world had entered an era where speed was no longer just a number on the dashboard. It was honor, a declaration of strength for an entire brand. And in that race, Kawasaki was the name every rival feared. With the Ninja ZX-11 or ZX-1100 in the European market, they held the title of the fastest production motorcycle in the world from 1990 to 1996. For 6 consecutive years, that crown was more than a record. It became a symbol of Kawasaki's relentless spirit, a company that believed speed was the very essence of mechanical freedom. But every dynasty eventually falls. In 1996, Honda struck back with the CBR 1100XX Super Blackbird, a direct punch at the throne Kawasaki had guarded for years. When the Blackbird surpassed the ZX-11, the King of Speed title collapsed, leaving a deep wound of pride in the hearts of the engineers at Akashi. Then, in 1999, a supersonic bomb named Suzuki Hayabusa exploded onto the scene and shook the entire motorcycle world. The number 312 kilometers per hour, equivalent to 194 miles per hour, turned every previous record into ancient history. The Hayabusa wasn't just faster, it outpaced its rivals by more than 10 miles per hour, a gap never before seen in production motorcycles. But what made the Hayabusa a legend wasn't just its speed. Suzuki had created an icon so brilliant it was almost ruthless. In Japanese, Hayabusa means peregrine falcon, the fastest animal on Earth, capable of diving at over 200 miles per hour. And the fascinating part? Its favorite prey happens to be the Blackbird, a symbolic strike straight at Honda's heart, leaving the company speechless. While the world celebrated the arrival of a new Lord of Speed, emotions at Akashi, Kawasaki's headquarters, were entirely different. The engineers, who once took pride in holding the title of world's fastest, now had to watch that honor being stripped away. They understood that this wasn't just a technical defeat, it was a blow to the very soul of the brand. And so, within the secret development rooms at Akashi, a new project was born, codenamed ZX-12R. Built from scratch, unbound by past formulas or familiar limits, its sole purpose was to create the first production motorcycle capable of breaking the 200-mile-per-hour barrier, a milestone no one had ever dared to touch. Instead of following Suzuki's formula, massive displacement and overwhelming torque, Kawasaki chose a different path: to create a true megasport, a machine that combined the sheer speed of a hyperbike with the precision of a superbike. They didn't just want to be fast in a straight line, they wanted their weapon to be agile, compact, and razor-sharp on the track. The result was the 1,199 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine, embodying the true spirit of a superbike. Rather than chasing maximum torque, like the Hayabusa, Kawasaki's engineers adopted the bore and stroke ratio from the ZX-9R, giving the engine a high-revving personality, eager to scream through the upper RPM range in pure ninja fashion. On paper, the ZX-12R's power was awe-inspiring. 178 horsepower under standard conditions, and up to 190 horsepower when its ram air intake system kicked in at high speed. But those numbers only told part of the story. What truly amazed engineers was the engine's compactness and efficiency. It was only slightly larger than the ZX-9R's engine, yet 26 pounds lighter than its predecessor, the ZX-11. Kawasaki also applied several groundbreaking technologies: aluminum-coated cylinders for superior heat dissipation and electronic fuel injection. The first appearance of such a system on a Kawasaki sport bike since the 1980s. Every component served one single purpose: to create an engine for the future, capable of operating at speeds most production motorcycles had never even approached. To house this supercar-inspired engine and achieve the aerodynamic goals they envisioned, Kawasaki knew a conventional frame wouldn't suffice. They needed a completely different foundation. Instead of the familiar twin-spar aluminum frame used by most superbikes of the era, they chose a bold and unprecedented solution for a production motorcycle: an aluminum monocoque frame, a design directly inspired by Kawasaki's own Grand Prix KR500 race bike from the 1980s. This hollow spine structure ran over the engine, serving both as the main frame and as a central air intake duct. The design provided greater rigidity, improved aerodynamics, and reduced overall weight compared to traditional frames. Thanks to its exceptional torsional stiffness, the ZX-12R delivered quicker response and superior stability when cornering at high speeds, something the Hayabusa, with its touring-oriented chassis, simply couldn't match. One of the ZX-12R's most fascinating yet little-known details was the pair of small fins on each side of the fairing. Many people mistakenly thought these were early winglets designed to create downforce like those found on modern MotoGP machines. But the truth was entirely different. Kawasaki never intended to generate downforce. Instead, the engineers developed a clever air separation system, a subtle but brilliant step in aerodynamic science. At high speeds, turbulent air from the front wheel could mix with the smooth airflow traveling along the bike's body, increasing drag. These small fins acted as barriers, keeping the two streams separate, ensuring that the airflow over the body remained clean and stable. The result was a significant reduction in drag, allowing the ZX-12R to achieve superior aerodynamic efficiency without increasing body surface area. As Kawasaki prepared to unleash the ZX-12R onto the world, it seemed the battle for the title of fastest motorcycle on Earth was about to reignite. Yet, just as the fire of speed began to burn once again, another storm was brewing. This time, not from the racetrack, but from the political arena of Europe. Lawmakers and the media began to speak out. They claimed that motorcycles capable of exceeding 300 kilometers per hour were deadly weapons on public roads, endangering public safety. Some countries even considered banning the import of high-performance bikes unless manufacturers impose speed limits themselves. This placed the entire Japanese and European motorcycle industries in a defensive position, a crisis that threatened to destroy the market altogether. And so, to save themselves, the Big Four, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Honda, and Yamaha, secretly gathered. They signed an unwritten, undisclosed pact known as the Gentleman's Agreement. Under this agreement, all future production motorcycles would be electronically limited to a top speed of 300 kilometers per hour, or roughly 186 miles per hour. It was a compromise born out of survival, a ceasefire in a speed war that had spun out of control. Ironically, the ZX-12R, a machine built to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier, was born just as the world decided to bury that dream forever. When top speed was no longer the defining factor, the battle between the ZX-12R and the Hayabusa shifted to the real world, where corners, road surfaces, and human reflexes determined victory. On mountain roads, the ZX-12R proved that Kawasaki's megasport philosophy had been the right move. With its rigid monocoque frame, sharp steering angle, and tightly centralized mass around the rider, the Kawasaki showed superior agility and precision. Motorcycle news tests at the time praised the ZX-12R's cornering prowess and lightning-fast response, something the Hayabusa, with its larger frame and touring-oriented nature, could hardly match. In the hands of an experienced rider, the ZX-12R could travel from point A to point B faster than almost any hyperbike of its era. However, on the straightaways, where only traction, torque, and launch control mattered, the Hayabusa reclaimed its crown. Suzuki had made their machine easier to control, more predictable, and more forgiving, especially for everyday riders. The ZX-12R, on the other hand, demanded skill and precise throttle discipline at every moment. A clear example came from professional drag racer Ricky Gadsden. When he tested the unrestricted prototype ZX-12R, it ran a quarter mile in 9.52 seconds, faster than almost any production bike ever made. But once the electronic limiter was activated, that time dropped to 9.89 seconds, just a few tenths of a second, yet enough to prove that the ZX-12R had been shackled right at the edge of greatness. From an engineering perspective, the ZX-12R was a masterpiece, but in the marketplace, where emotion and practicality often collide, technical brilliance doesn't always guarantee success. Kawasaki had created a machine that was too complex, too fast, and for many riders, simply too wild to tame. The ZX-12R was built for seasoned riders, those who wanted to feel every heartbeat of the engine and were ready to wrestle with it through every corner. But most buyers weren't looking for that. They wanted a hyperbike that could glide smoothly on the highway, yet lift its front wheel at will for a display of power. And in that regard, Suzuki's Hayabusa delivered perfectly. It was friendly, easy to ride, and inspired confidence even for those new to the 186-mile-per-hour club. While the ZX-12R demanded that riders adapt to it, the Hayabusa made riders feel at home. One was an engineer's weapon, the other a rider's companion. That difference made the Hayabusa a cultural icon, while the ZX-12R, though faster, sharper, and more refined, became a legend only among the most devoted speed enthusiasts. Even though it never reclaimed the title of world's fastest motorcycle, the ZX-12R left behind a brilliant legacy, not on record charts, but in the hearts of those who understood the true meaning of speed. Because even when limited, this machine stood as a testament to Kawasaki's ambition and pride, their willingness to dream and to push the boundaries of engineering at a time when most manufacturers chose safety and restraint. Today, the ZX-12R no longer appears on bestseller lists, but every time that 1,199 cubic centimeter roar echoes, people still feel something different, something that no data, chart, or sales figure can capture. Because a true king doesn't need a throne to be called a king. And the ZX-12R stands as living proof of that. An era, a spirit, and an immortal icon of speed. If you've followed along this far, you've probably felt what Kawasaki once believed, that speed isn't just recklessness, it's the language of mechanical passion. The ZX-12R may not have reclaimed its crown, but it achieved something greater, the respect of those who understand that technology and emotion don't always need to align with the market. Think back to the last time you heard the roar of a true machine, that sound that made your heart race, not out of fear, but out of pure admiration. The ZX-12R embodies that very spirit, a symbol of an era when engineers were still allowed to dream big and challenge the world. So what about you? Which side are you on in this battle? The smooth, controllable Hayabusa or the raw and untamed ZX-12R? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell, because there are many more stories waiting for you. Tales of speed, forgotten machines, and mechanical dreams that never died.